Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Xa Talk Show. Today is 2000 something, 2021, April. Today is not April 1st, today is April 8th. Time flies, and soon I'm gonna be, 10 more years. 10 more years. I have a motto that is 5 years will be passed sooner or later. When I was younger, when I was 20 something, 30 something, I had hello to Emacs. So I had this motto, when you are young, when you are younger, you have lots of questions and frustrations in life. So now I'm 50 something. Those problems went away because I have more experience. I know what are the answers more or less. But when I was young, I had this motto: 5 years will be passed sooner or later. That was my motto because it works for me. Because I was worried about things, but then you think about 5 years will be passed sooner or later, and your current problem, will go away. So anyway, that was my motto. So today I don't have a topic. It's kind of randomish, so you can ask me questions. Okay. Or more important would be to share your Mathematica findings. Okay, I can do some Mathematica. One of the topic I want to talk about is the let's go to my let's I haven't set up my stuff yet, so let's set up. So this window is gonna be, let's call XAR. Wait, first of all, let's go to bookmark, Emacs bookmark, settings. So magnify, you can see the full glory of Emacs Lisp. So this section is setting up font. Okay, so I'm gonna open a new window, paste it. I already copied it, and switch to XAR Emacs Lisp mod. Okay, then I go here. This is setting font, so Consola 14. Okay, evaluate it. So now every one of my window is gonna be bigger font for the live stream. So close, don't save, close, shrink window again. Then here I'm going to call XAR start command. So on the pink window, every command I do, you can see the command name and the key I press. Okay, I'm using XAR keys. So move forward word, move backward by word, move forward by char, move backward by char, move forward by paragraph, move backward by paragraph, go to the beginning of buffer, go to the bottom of buffer. So I'm using Vorak keyboard, so no control key, you'll notice. So that's the beauty of XAR keys, and I claim it's more efficient than Vim. Okay, by measuring keystrokes scientifically, I claim. And actually we can do a Vim golf anytime you want. Just ask for it, I'll do it. And let's see how XAR keys compare to Vim. Okay, because I've done that before in like last year, but that was when I wasn't, I don't know, I'm not so smooth in doing live streams, but I can do better now. So I'm using XAR keys, and you want to know Mathematica. Like, do you have a question? Like, do you have any experience with Mathematica, or do you already use Mathematica, Wolfram language? Do you have specific area or questions you want to know? Because you want to ask your question, you want to ask me something you really want to know, instead of suggesting general topic, because that usually doesn't work well. Because so because if I know what's your intention about questions, your background about Mathematica, then I can address that specifically. But I've been wanting to look at my tabs. So these are all my my website things to do. This is my notes, the Mathematica things I need to do. And this is about Mobius transformation, which is a fantastic, beautiful topic in geometry. Okay, complex analysis, and I recommend this book, okay, Visual Complex Analysis. You go buy it. Now, of course, most of you guys, my audiences, are not mathematicians. You guys are mostly programmers. So, in order to study this topic, complex analysis, basically you need the prerequisite. You need, basic calculus, at that level. You don't exactly need calculus. That's the thing about math prerequisite. Like often when you have some topic, there are at least some prerequisite. But usually it's a case that it's not necessary to know calculus to study complex, and actually you do. Well, it's not necessary to know calculus when you study the subject of complex numbers and geometry involving complex numbers, such as inversion spectacular. So this is inversion, okay, geometric inversion, or 1 over a complex number, 1 over z. And this is one of the Mobius transformation. This is plot of the square function, and you can also plot it on a Riemann sphere. This is called Riemann sphere. Fascinating topic. In fact, I can give you a tutorial, kind of informal tutorial. I can explain. So anyway, these are related. These are called geometric transformation, or rather, it's usually part of complex analysis or vector calculus. Depending on your point of view and specific interest. So anyway, so I was saying, when you study complex analysis, which is a recognized field in math, there are a lot of topic in it, but part of it, the calculus is not necessary. Okay, you can study a whole lot of it without getting into calculus. But however, when they talk about math, they usually they specify some prerequisite, not necessarily because you need to know those topics, but rather because you need to have the math maturity at those topic levels in order to understand, the kind of the talking style of the subject matter. So that's usually the case. Anyway, so complex analysis, fascinating topic, and isometries, one of the most interesting topic in geometry. It's all connected to group theory, to symmetry theory, and lots of things. So these are the things I need to do. My Chinese blog. Then you have my wordy blog, Lojban. Lojban is a artificial language. These days it's more often called constructed language. That is, you create a language out of nothing. This is in opposition to natural human languages, such as English, French, German language, Spanish, and so on, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. These are natural human languages. Now, but over the past 300 years or so, you started to have constructed languages. That is, you just, like a programming language, you created, you just design it. So the most famous being Esperanto, okay, and there are quite a few, and usually constructed languages, the history of them usually is a utopian vision. Like you envision, the world, the language barrier is a problem, right? So you are English speakers, you don't understand Chinese people, and Chinese people don't understand you. Not just the language, but also lots of cultural involvements. And so scientists, in the 1800s, they started to design a language from the ground up. So it has properties of being regular, being extremely simple to learn, simple and regular, you know, and many other artificial properties make it kind of easier to learn. Regularity is one of the most it's the irregularity is one of the most problem in learning natural languages. Like when you study English, or if you are English speaker, when you study Chinese or study Japanese or German, French, or Spanish, one of the difficulty is irregularity, because you just have 1,000 exceptions in grammar, in spelling, in everything. and and when you study a foreign language for the first time, you started to think, what the fuck? Why are you? They just it just have thousands of irregularities. But with your own language, you don't notice it. If I grew up with Chinese, I don't notice all the irregularities. If you grew up with English, you don't notice it until, for example, when I started to learn English like 30 years ago. Then you notice everywhere. The plural, for example, in typically plural, chairs, you put a s at the end, right? Chairs, cups, pens. But then you have, let's see, what are some examples of person. Okay, you don't say persons, you say people. Okay. Woman, you don't say womans, you say women. And there's also pronunciation irregularity. 1,000, 1 million examples of irregularity. So in constructed languages, one of the things they get rid of is irregularity. Everything is regular. So the most famous example is Esperanto. I mean, the most popular constructed language is Esperanto, about 200 years ago, invented 200 years ago. Then Lojban and Loglan, which stand for logical language. The outstanding feature of the Lojban or Loglan, Loglang, logical language. The outstanding feature of this constructed language is that it's based on logic. Okay, so this is, a lot of you guys will be interested in this language because it's based on logic. It tries to give you a language for human communication that is the most logical, and again, and also no irregularity. And also, for example, Lojban has a precise grammar spec, unlike natural languages, English, French, German, Spanish, they all have a grammar, but the grammar is like ad hoc, that it's like after the fact. Once you have, English begin, it's not like someone designed the English. Okay, this should be the grammar. It's not like that. It's just happened, like monkey talk. Then, after civilization and so on, and academia, then people started to say, oh, this should be the grammar. That this is the English grammar. That is the French grammar. So they started to give you a grammar, the rules. But so some of you, if you are a sophomore, like if you studied in college, you study English, then you think oh my God, this the grammar should be this way, that way. But you are idiot. Okay, because the English grammar, any grammar of natural languages, they are imprecise. They are like actually impossible to specify a grammar for a natural language precisely, because there's always, I mean, even grammar, there's exceptions. Like then there are some hotshot writers and poets, especially poets, like uh, in poetry, or Shakespeare, they create their own words and own grammar. They break all the rules. But then the grammarians say, oh, that is allowed, because when they became an expert, a mastery of the language, they can create their own stuff. And the word Cummings comes to mind. Okay, Cummings is Cummings. That's a famous poet. He's known for creating. He doesn't stick with the orthography, the standard orthography. In other words, he first of all he used lowercase for his names, like Cummings. Like what the fuck? Like he tries to stand out. Instead of capital letters, he used lowercase. And then he's poem. He doesn't use punctuations the normal way. So each one have their own say. And you guys, you idiotic programmers, okay, you guys, like, oh, Kasa, you spelled programming wrong. It should be two M's. and, and things like that. The less you know, the more like you feel like, oh, this is correct. Usually that's the case. That's why they say sophomore. What's the etymology of sophomore? Because you are semi-moron. You had 2 years of college, you become a semi-moron because you think you know. So back to constructed languages. So I was talking about So Lojban is a then there's the open source ugly war. Let me tell you about that story. Okay, so let's go to Wikipedia. So you can like instead of some people thinking, oh, Ksa is just talking bullshit. Now here's Wikipedia. Okay, wait, not language log. It's idiotic fuck. I want the Wikipedia article on Loglan. I noticed these days search engine started to not show Wikipedia at the top. So engineered language, what the fuck? Yeah, that's not the standard word. Crap, idiotic. Okay, let's just go to constructed languages. Okay, and so they in this Wikipedia article they classify different types of constructed languages. For example, what's the purpose when you created a constructed language? What's your purpose? So there are different quite a few different purposes and vision. What's your vision? So you can read, back in in the 1990s, there's no Wikipedia. So I went to the library and read a bunch of books on, several books on Esperanto, Esperanto for beginners, and so on, and Lojban, and you read about them. So let's search for logic. You'll find it. Okay, phonological. The language I'm trying to look for is Loglan. Okay. So they, these are kind of new explanation to me, because so apparently they divided constructed languages to engineered languages, and which is supposed to test some hypothesis or being logical, things like that, Loglans. Okay, then auxiliary languages, which is designed for international communication. Then you have artistic languages, constructed languages, which is for example Klingon. All the idiotic nerds are into it. Klingon, fuck, I despise it. Klingon and also the elvish language of the nerd hacker, fuck, elvish. From that Two Towers. The what's the trilogy? Lord of the Rings. Yeah, so most of you are like gets very excited. Oh my God, Klingon and Lord of the Rings, Elvish, and then you have Xar articles. Unicode. Okay, so Unicode, let's magnify so you can see. Then you have this, nerds, Western white men nerds are very obsessed, fascinated by runs. I didn't know the reason before, but eventually I know it, because runs is like actually kind of the old English, the origin. You could kind of say it's kind of the part of the origin of English. I mean, or put it in other words, it's the father history of Western culture. Okay, part of it, especially Northern Europe. So run, so you have keyboard with run caps. Keyboard IO does that. I so despise this, my my antithesis, the hacker types. We are in the same group, but our opinions differ. Just about everything on computing and programming. So anyway, Western people, white people, they love this, and so I studied a little bit. So you can, for example, I wrote an app. You can wait. I need to show. Turn on JavaScript. So comments. Okay, I'm gonna answer your comment and ching, put money in my pocket. So you can type English here, and this app will translate it, magnify, translate it to run alphabet. Okay, so I studied a little bit, just curiosity. So apparently there are different type of runs. So you have elder runs, you have Anglo-Saxon runs, you have Tolkien runs. Yeah, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. Then you have younger LB, younger ST, and medieval runs. Then you can convert runs to Latin. So copy that, select or paste it. To Latin? Okay, so you can convert it. So this constitute encryption. So next time you want to send a secret message to your girlfriend, your girlfriend's girlfriend, this is applicable. So next, so I was talking about constructed languages. Okay, so and getting back, I was trying to look for the Loglan. Where the fuck is it? Okay, just search for Loglang. Yeah, no link. Okay. Let's search for Lojban. Lojban. Okay, so we can, via this link, we can find the Loglan. So Lojban, I have a tutorial of that. You can see. Yeah. And by the way, this comics is very funny. Okay, this comic, try to read it because it has meanings. Okay, anyway, let me go back to talking about the Lojban. Okay, so Lojban is actually a derivative of the original. It was a language called Loglan. Loglan. It stands for logical language, created by this guy James Cook Brown. Okay, in 1955. Okay. And this language, the premise of this language is that he created a language, constructed language based on logic. So in this language, everything is regular, of course, but also it's focused on logic. In this language, the semantics, the meaning, usually in natural languages, each word has so much meanings. So he created a language that makes it very logical. Then here comes the ugly story of the open source mentality. So then he got a lot of fans. All the nerds started to learn this language. Then these people started to create their own website. A fan club of sorts. Talking about language. And this guy says, no, you cannot do that. This is copyrighted. Because this guy James Cook, just like you and me, you want to benefit, you thinking for yourself, you want money. So he says you cannot do that. So they went to court, and the court eventually said, you see, Loglan was eventually upheld by the United Patent and Trademark Office. Many supported a member of Loglan Institute find this usage offensive and reserve Loglan for, so they had a fight among the open source mentality. By the way, this happened around 1970s. This is before the Richard Stallman fuckhead came up. I was a fanatic of Richard Stallman for most of 1990s and early 2000s. If you don't know, like I know lots of you guys will say, "Oh, this guy hates Richard Stallman." I was a fanatic of Richard Stallman. I told that story many times in my video. But so anyway, so they had a fight. So they split. Just like Emacs versus xemacs. Again, that's another history of Emacs. There's a giant, what they call, there's a word. Okay. Anyway, so they split into two camps. So the court says actually Loglan has the right. Okay. But anyway, so the fanatics, the fan of Loglan started. They thought, okay, you don't like me, I don't like you, so they split. So the Lojban, the fan group, created a new language, Lojban. Okay, they created new language with this extremely ugly fuck logo. Why do I mention that? Because back in early 2000s, I have a big, I went to the forum. I'm also interested in Lojban, so I was talking to them. But I criticized the logo, and all these hacker fucks. They think I'm troll. They think this is great. This is fantastic logo. This is most fucking ugly logo. Okay, you ask any people who have study of visual arts, but these nerds, just like programmers, just like the Emacs fanatics, the Vim fanatics, the Linux fanatics, they all have none of it. When they criticize their community, even if you are right, they insist 1 + 1 is 3. So I have a big fight with them. These idiots. Okay. So and I have a written account of it. If you just search for Sali Lojban, you might find it somewhere on my website. This is around year 2000. Okay, so anyway, so Loglan, so they split. What's the word for it? Folk, not folk, but there's schism. Yeah, the proper word, the proper academic mumbo jumbo is schism. They split, just like in politics. Wait, am I correct? Yeah, it's a division between people, usually belonging to an organization, movement, or religious denomination. Yeah, exactly, religion. That's the number one example, schism. Like Christianity, like Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, then Judaism, then Christianity have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1,000 divisions. Then okay, that's why does that happen? That's a human nature. You have to understand that. That's a human nature. Okay, that's not because anyway. So Lojban, so they split. Okay, so the fan club, they created their own language, Lojban. The grammar and basically it's just a copy of Loglan. Okay, but however they changed all the vocabularies. That's how things are, and just like just like Linux, when this Lojban become more popular, far more popular than Loglan. Once this split happens, everyone's like, oh, I want the free stuff. I don't want the patented stuff. So this Lojban becomes much more popular than the Loglan. So I learned Lojban. I don't know much about Loglan. That's the situation. Why? If I'm a creator of, you first of all, it's not easy to come up with the original idea. That's why sometimes you hear idea is the most important thing, creative ideas. So this guy, James Cook Brown, he's a logician, I think. He's also a science fiction writer. So he studied logic and linguistics, and and so he created Loglan. Then of course, when you created something, you want to benefit from it. But then the the open source, the communism group happened, so they just basically robbed it. Uh, I mean, is there a correct answer? Which way should it go? Not really. Okay, like y- there's really no the proper ethical way, like whether you should be patented or you should get money or not. Depends on the situation. There's no absolute answer to such this kind of question. Okay, if James Cook Brown happens to be a millionaire, then he probably wouldn't care. But maybe he's not. I don't know much about him, but he wanted to be. He benefit from it. So there's a fight. But then, but what I really want to criticize is the phonetism, the open source communism, free software foundation. They are all pretty much the same. There's a phonetism, like these people, you guys, they believe this is the only way. Nothing can, if you don't do it this my way, you are a fuckhead. That's why Linux is split to 100 distros, and never going anywhere. Anyway, so that's a story of Lojban, okay, and constructed languages in general. Okay, so let's go back to this very funny comics. Summit tacita. I forgot what the tacita means. The attitudinals. There's lots of puns here. Attitude. You know, att- altitude. Altitude is a hate, right? But it also means the attitude, like your attitude. What's your attitude towards Free Software Foundation? Attitude. So here's a mountain, Summit Tacita, and it's also known as the attitudinals. You know, and here is the plain Selby. Plain. This is another pun. Plain is just a flat ground, but it also like plain GNU Emacs, plain mouse. I don't have a fancy mouse. Actually, I do have a fancy mouse, but but then you have a plain mouse and things like that. Plain Selby. Selby means I forgot. I haven't touched Lojban for a while. So anyway, so I did this tutorial like back in 2004. So you can see back in 2004 I did some recording of it, and also Chinese for the same word. So yeah, but I don't think my tutorial is not very good tutorial. Okay, it's kind of a mess. Okay, so time to read the comments. Let's see, have I been talking, like have I been muted? No. Okay, good. Sometimes I do that. So let me read what's going on. Okay, how long have I been talking? I've been talking for 40 minutes. Okay. So this Russian guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He says that he haven't studied calculus. You have to study calculus. He's starting to study calculus. Okay, so if you are going into math, there are so many. There's a question I got asked a few times in the past week or two. That is, how do you like what math to study? That depends on quite a few things. Okay, so let me tell you how. Okay, so where do you begin to study math? What subject? Okay, I would say so there can be there can be two approaches. One is that you follow the traditional path. Okay, so what that means is that you study, basically you study pre-calculus, trigonometry, basics, basic geometry. Then you study calculus. Okay, then you study calculus, usually calculus 1, 2, 3, 4 in USA. Then you also study linear algebra. Then you started to study differential geometry, differential equations. Okay, those are basic. This traditional path, this is for people who wants to be an engineer. Okay, maybe you are a physicist, maybe you are an engineer, maybe you study chemistry, maybe that's what you study. Basically calculus. Okay, calculus, linear algebra, differential equations. First of all, calculus, that's what you have to study for half a year. Then you can start to study the very basics of linear algebra, and also the very basics of differential equations. Okay, and that's required, because these subjects are fundamental to physics, to chemistry, to engineering, to lots of things, to sciences. So that's and maybe you also might take statistics. Okay, anyway, so that's what you study. And maybe you also, on the side, you might take statistics or discrete math. Anyway, that's a traditional. Okay, calculus, linear algebra, differential equations, the introduction. Calculus that's a traditional way. Now, if you are a programmer, you might, or if you are, let's say, just a hobbyist, but there's a lot amateur mathematicians who became the greatest mathematicians in history. So you don't have to follow the traditional way. So what do you do? If you don't like the calculus kind of thing, you can study discrete mathematics. Okay, which is very useful for programmers. For example, summation, the big O notation. You want to compute the algorithmic complexity, so-called complexity of algorithm. You have to do a lot of sums. You want to be able to find sequence and series and sums. Okay, I have an article on that. Okay, so anyway, so you can study discrete. In general, the broad category is called discrete mathematics. Okay, so let's go to Wikipedia. Then you can see this is a broad category. Okay, so what does it involve? So okay, it includes graph theory, game theory, cryptography. Okay, of course, which anyway, in general, the traditionally involves graph theory, game theory, and probability. Okay, some basic number theory, combinatorics, set theory, logic. Yeah, that's kind of all. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So discrete math, okay, it involves information theory, which is not part of. Okay, let me be focused. Okay, so in general, traditionally involves some basic logic, basic set theory, and combinatorics is a big thing, and graph theory, and some probability and number theory and algebraic structures, some. Okay, and not of these. So anyway, Wikipedia usually gives you lots of info, but it's not. For example, here it lists these as topics in discrete mathematics. Well, because it tries, it's very broad. But I can tell you what it really involves. Okay, in general, combinatorics, graph theory, and game theory. Okay, combinatorics, graph theory, game theory. That's the heart of discrete mathematics. Forget about the other things. Discrete mathematics doesn't usually involve geometry or topology. That's outside of it. Of course, you could drag them in, because there's very advanced geometry and topology that's discrete. That's from a discrete approach. Then you also have discrete derivatives, which is actually calculus, but you use a discrete approach. It gets very complex. So let me repeat. Discrete mathematics is mostly about combinatorics and graph theory and number theory, okay, and game theory, okay. That's kind of one way to put it. So if you don't want to follow the traditional if you way of studying math, let's say you are not a physicist, you don't plan to be, you are not an engineer, you don't plan to be, you don't plan to be a chemist or anything like that, or you don't plan to be designing a car or designing all those things like require calculus, okay. That's the fundamental part of the traditional math. But if you are just a hobbyist or if you are just interested in programming, then you can start from discrete math, okay. And also you might also study logic and set theory, okay. They are like these two have nothing to do with this logic. Okay, let me explain. Logic is like an entity by itself. It has very little to do with set theory in general, okay. I'm just giving you my common view, okay. I mean, technically I mean in a technical sense all math are very intertwined, okay. So but in general logic is logic, set theory is set theory, they are very separate. Combinatorics is combinatorics, and graph theory is graph theory. They don't have nothing to do with not not nothing to do with each other from a beginner's point of view, okay. From even the main body, their main theories and things have nothing to do with each other. So yeah, so if you are hobbyist, study and some elements of number theory, and okay. So that's about how do you study or approach math. I can go on to explain what's a combinatorics. For example, the most basic. Where is it? I want to click to combinatorics. I want to go to the real article. Okay, so here's the real article on combinatorics. So what does it study? For example, lottery. Okay, so given 48 numbers, lottery balls. Given 48 numbers, if you're gonna pick 6 out of 48, how many possibilities are there? Okay, that's a very basic classic example of combinatorics. Now there's another name for the math field of combinatorics: counting. Okay, you can think in other words, it's combinatorics is basically about counting. You want to be able to count things. It seems silly, but it can. Some of the problems is very hard. Let me show you one problem of famous combinatorics. Okay, this is another problem, the famous problem. Okay, uh, yes. Let me show you. Okay, let me show you a tool. To yeah. Well, should I? It depends on if you have interest. Let's see the comments. Okay. So here's a hard question. How do you make your living? I make my living by the money you gave me, okay? uh, yeah, I don't want to answer those questions because that's the dramatic questions. So, lots of my videos, they want to ask that. And usually, that's do you care? Do you care? Okay. Futurism, wiki Lojban, not yeah. Okay, there's a Lojban wiki. Yeah, certainly. Rizzo, hello. Do you think Conlan will ever see mass adoption? No, Absolutely. That's what I realized. That's what I found out when, my personal opinion. Almost all conlands constructed language, especially the older ones like 200 years ago, they were created in, back then 200 years ago. There's certain worldview, so they are created by people, scientists usually, or linguists. Back then it's people are usually polymath, meaning they study lots of things. They are not just, they are scientists, they are physicists, they are mathematicians, they are also philosophers back then 200 years ago. And they also study linguistics, polymath like me. But today it's almost impossible because the science knowledge growth exponentially. You cannot know everything. You could, but very shallow. Each one, you can be a physicist. You have nuclear physicist. You have quantum physicist. You have material. You have cosmologist. You have many branches. Same thing with chemistry and so on, and biology. So back then, usually these people who created constructed languages, they have a vision. They usually, it tends some sort of utopia. They have a vision. So why don't we break down the language barrier so that all the people can talk to each other, and remove the culture barrier, so that we create a language that is new. It's not tied to Chinese. For example, Chinese language is very much tied to Chinese culture. You see almost in every word. Japanese language has a very strong tie to Japan's culture. Same thing with English, Spanish, and so on. So when you learn a new language, it's not just a new linguistic interest. You are actually study lots of the culture too. It's tied, it's intertwined. For example, if you study Arabic or Persian, where Iran people speak, you are actually digging into lots of cultures. Unavoidable. So back then, 2,000 years ago, these people constructed languages. They have a vision. They want utopia. Break the language barrier, break the cultural barrier. Their language, often they say it's neutral. This is one of the qualities of many constructed languages. They try to remove any so-called cultural bias in their language. So they have that vision. And what was I going to say? Yeah. So and okay, and one of their goal is usually mass adoption, because they are trying to create a universal language. There's a Latin phrase for it, I forgot, but anyway, they are trying to create a language so everyone can speak, and it's also easy to learn, right? But if you look at history, it never happened. Almost never. It just never happened. It's like same fate for English spelling reform. If you look at history, there are quite a lot English spelling reform. So why don't we reform the English spelling so it's all systematic, so it's much easier to learn, and so on. It's a very interesting topic. You just look up Wikipedia English spelling reform. You'll see quite a lot of history and efforts and systems. Okay, so today we're gonna focus. Our topic is gonna be about constructed languages. So look, English language spelling reform. History: 16th and 17th centuries, 19th centuries, 20th centuries. Arguments for reform, arguments against reform. So anyway, just like constructed languages, they almost always fail. Like nobody ever use it. At the time, some famous people or even U.S. presidents, endorse, or famous writers endorse this, but they always fail after 50 years or 100 years. Like failed into obscurity. So let me show you another XA page. Okay, so we have Unicode run, let me show you some of the constructed alphabets for English. Let's see, Ethiopia, okay, Asian run Konglan, okay, so we have Deseret and Shavian, okay. So let's look at Deseret alphabet. So Deseret alphabet is tied to the Mormon religion. The Mormon people, they created basically their own writing system for English, okay, and this system is designed so that it basically based on the idea of regular spelling, but however they don't want to use the English alphabets. They wanted a new alphabet. So in other words, this system, this Deseret alphabet, you can think of it is a phonetic system for English language. Of course they failed. They failed after 50 years. The Mormon religious people, they use it, but after 50 years it's dead. So that's one of them. Then the Shavian alphabet. Shavian alphabet is created by the famous author, playwright George Bernard Shaw. He also wanted he wanted a regular phonetic spelling system for English. So he created this alphabet. So this is a phonetic alphabet for English, Shavian alphabet. Okay, so this is in 1960. Okay, yeah, it originated from George Bernard Shaw, but he didn't actually create it. He left a will to have a competition, so other people created it. Anyway, but it's tied to his name, it's his idea. So anyway, Shavian alphabet 1960 and Deseret alphabet 1847. So these are two systems that actually created a English phonetic alphabet, okay, and these two are part of the English reform. There are other English reforms that does not create a new alphabet. They just use the standard English alphabet but change the spelling. So there's a long history of it. Very interesting. Part of the reason this is very interesting because we are Emacs users, right? So we are Emacs users, and for example, let's close this window. Okay, shrink, go back to Emacs, so you can see. Let me open a new something. So for example, I have you see, when you use Emacs or Vim, you are a programmer, right? You want to have shortcuts. For example, haven't, okay, you have to type that, but I can just type HVNT. Okay, no, wait, HNT. You see, HNT. So this is a shorthand. For example, on the other hand, by the way, okay, BTW, enter. So I can type by the way just by pressing 3 keys. And lots of you guys keyboard phonetics, right? You have lots of systems, right? Anyway, so Emacs has a brief, so I have an article on that. Let me show you my Emacs brief file. Okay, so you can see all the abbreviations I have. For example, let's go up, let's go to the let's go up. So this saves typing. And of course many of you are interested in how long have I been talking? I should probably stop, but let me keep on. Okay, many of you are interested in, you go to SAR keyboards, you go to the stenotype. Okay, so stenotype is a shorthand system. This photo is from Emily, our our leader. and so it allows you to type like 200 words per minute using a phonetic system. So anyway, the reason I'm mentioning this is that for lots of you guys, you might be interested in shorthand system that speed up your typing. So this is very much related to the English spelling reform, because if you can type, if you type by phonetics, you save a lot of keystrokes, because deep, there's just two sounds, deep. So instead of typing DEEP 4 keystrokes, you can just deep 2 keystrokes. So phonetic system is one of the key to save typing. So that's why I say the English spelling reform and also the phonetic alphabets are one of the key to explore typing shorthands, a system just like the stenotype machine. Very interesting. I haven't made a systematic, one of these days I want to make a systematic study of all the past English spelling reforms. And there's also not just spelling reform, there's also shorthand system. You can search for it. Okay, that's another thing. So you search for English shorthand, then there's a Wikipedia article on wiki. There's a Wikipedia article on list of shorthand systems. Okay, so for example, this is a list of shorthand systems for writing English. So you can write almost at the speed of speaking. Back then it's based on handwriting, but today with computer keyboards, you can also create one based on computer keyboards. So this is part of the reason. You see, we are talking about fast typing. Okay, many of you programmers or nerds, we Emacs Vim users are interested in that. And what they go to mostly, they go to the stenotype. I despise the hackers. Again, this is the reason I despise the hackers. They have no idea what is going on, except the what's the let me show you. Okay, let me address these interesting things. Like I mentioned, these lots of you know what I'm talking about. Like if you are into keyboards, then you click on the do-it-yourself keyboards. Okay, then we go down, we click on the plank, the worst keyboard possible. So there's tons of people, the nerds, the hackers, they love this one. And what they want to do with it, they want to use it as a steno with Plover. Plover is a project that makes a computer keyboard into a stenotype machine to emulate this machine. Okay, so these hacker idiots, that's what they do. You'll see lots of thousands people, fan clubs, doing this. What is their goal? Their goal is to allow you to type fast. Okay, but however, if you ask these people, these phonetics, great, great project, Plover, fantastic. No disrespect, by the way, great people. This Plover project is created basically by her. Okay, what's her name? I have her name somewhere here. Okay, no disrespect. But however, these hacker types, idiots, they don't study, they don't know nothing. So they see this is great. This is all you hear among the QMK again. Last few videos I did a video talking about the phonetism of QMK, open source. They don't know nothing else. Okay, you ask them, these phonetics who spend a lot of money and time and exploring Plover and steno, you ask them about the shorthand, the history, or alternative ways to improve typing speed. They have no idea. They don't know. So that is why I sophomorons. That's what they are. That's this is reason I have problems with the hackers, their ideas. Just almost everywhere I go, I don't agree with them. Okay, I think that's it. Maybe that's it for today. So yeah, so back to I digressed a lot. Back to the question about Conlan. Will it one day become popular so that we all can learn constructed language? So I learned it turns out not historically none of them ever succeeded. In fact, their group is very small. The most popular constructed language is Esperanto. They have maybe a million, maybe a million. I don't know. Look up Wikipedia, I will say. But basically, they go nowhere. Like you don't hear it. If you don't, if you are not nerd, you never heard of Esperanto, okay, or anything other. So that's the situation. They will never go anywhere. Why? Because there's a good reason. There's good reason for that. Because how do I? What? Okay, the reason is a bit complex and social. Okay, one of the biggest reason constructed languages will never go anywhere. It will never be popular is because people habit is the most strong. How do you say characteristics? Or the habit is the most important thing for human animals. Habit. Okay, you don't want to learn like a new spelling system for English, even though it's simpler, but because you already know, why should you? And you don't want to learn another language, why should you? Because it takes tremendous time to learn a new language, French, Chinese. I mean, if it's free, like the open source, if it's free, all of a sudden just snap a finger, you can know all about Chinese. Why not? I would love it. Snap a finger, free software foundation. Then by tomorrow, I know Spanish, I can speak French, I can speak Russian. Why not? But that's not the case. That's not the case. You have to pay. It's not free. Okay, you have to pay. You have to take a year to learn it. So even with constructed language, it's the same thing. You have to pay. So people don't want to. Same thing with Dvorak. Dvorak keyboard. Keyboard layouts, right? About Dvorak, about about QWERTY, right? And are you going to learn Dvorak? It's more efficient. Are you going to learn Comac? It's way more efficient. All these. Are you going to learn it? For vast majority of people, they're not going to bother. Then let me mention another thing related. Okay, most people who don't learn, they don't even learn touch type. Okay. They like this flat, typical, normal keyboard, like the happy hacking, like the hacker idiots. They love this happy hacking. Why don't they, why don't they study and learn and find the ergonomic, this Batman keyboard fascinating? Why don't they? Well, because they don't touch type. You have to take a month dedicated 1 hour, 2 hours a day, a month or two to learn touch type. Then you might find these ergonomic keyboards fantastic. But for vast majority of people, including these hacker idiots, programmers, they think they are elite. Oh, I'm elite. I'm gonna learn do it yourself. But then they're gonna go for mechanical keys. But they love happy hacking. They don't care for ergonomic. Why? Habit. Habit is a very powerful thing, and it's nothing to criticize about. That's how we grow. You don't artificially try to learn something else or new design or something. Just like Windows, Linux, Mac. Once you get used to it, you use it. Another system, maybe you don't switch. So habit. Okay, so this is part of the biggest reason constructed language will go nowhere. Okay, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, I think that's it for today. So any more questions? Graph theory, semantic stuff. Want to be a semantic org ROM in Emacs. Okay. I'm ready to drop calculus. I'm ready to drop calculus. I go sleep in 5 minutes. Okay. If one can optimize a alphabet for writing speed, could they also be optimized for reading speed? I'm not. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think much less. Okay, so here's a question from Carrick. He says if one can optimize a alphabet for writing speed, then couldn't they also optimize, create a writing system to optimize reading speed? My answer to that is not really, because it's different from writing. Okay, because when you write, let's say, okay, there are two ways to write. First of all, handwriting versus typing. Okay, when you write, let's say for handwriting, so you can create lots of shorthand systems that speed up your writing. But for reading, it's a different story, because you don't, when human reads, you don't actually watch each character. Rather, you glance at the sentence, you recognize the shape of the whole word. Okay, and actually not just the word. You glance, your eyes grab a section of words, and you recognize them. That is why for most people you don't recognize minor misspelling errors. Okay, so when you read, basically your eyes like gaze, 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 gaze. There are studies of it measuring your eyes. So reading is pretty fast. So if you create a new, maybe a phonetic alphabet or something, you will shorten the number of letters, but it doesn't really increase your reading speed. Okay, and in the same way, you're talking about Chinese. In the same way for Chinese. So for Chinese, for example, let's go to my Chinese article, my Chinese blog. Okay, so for example, I have a bunch of Chinese characters. This is a list of simplified versus traditional. Let's go to some Chinese. Okay, let's go to Baidu, Baidu. So here, Baidu is a Chinese search engine, most popular. Let's look at news. Okay, let's magnify. So it's all Chinese, right? When I read Chinese, you don't look at the details of each character, how they, you don't do that. For example, I can read. Okay, let me read for you. Okay, let me read it out. If I just visually read it, it's faster even. So let me read it. Okay, 武汉的春天以来，献给曾为武汉拼命过的你。习近平谈到过的学习方法，去年今日看见大武汉。何文诗用镜头向世界展现一个真实的中文。I don't read Chinese every day. I rarely, like every few months, not even once in a while. So so I'm reading Chinese. So that's the thing. You don't actually read each character's detail. Once you learn a language, you glance at the shape of the whole words, characters, or bunch of cluster of words. That's how you read. So for example, in Chinese, you have simplified characters. That doesn't increase reading speed. Let me show you again. So in this page, you are seeing the blue are the simplified characters. Okay, let me magnify so you can see the detail. For example, this character means love. Okay, so there are two forms. On the left, you can see it's a bit simpler than the right one. The right one is a traditional character, traditional, used in Taiwan and Hong Kong. On the left, it's the same character but kind of simplified. So if you are writing it, you can see the left one is much, you save lots of pen strokes. But for reading, it's same speed. Okay, for reading, it's same speed. So again, you can see some other simplified characters. So okay, that's about that. thank you guys for watching. That's it for today. Constructed language, fantastic topic. Okay, now donate or Patreon me. Okay, thank you. If you like my stuff, donate Patreon. Buy my Emacs tutorial. Buy my JavaScript tutorial. Okay, I need to say this because that's how I make money. Okay, part of it. Okay, so you can buy it. Okay, and Ksa JavaScript tutorial. Okay, so you go buy it now. Thank you guys. Bye. Shutting down in 1 minute. 1 minute, because usually there's a delay of 15 seconds or something of the chat. So I'm gonna shutting down in 1 minute. Thank you guys. So today I talked for 1 hour and 15 minutes. This is coffee. Good morning, bot. I missed my chances of going to Germany, screwed up by COVID-19 and some personal issues. So I don't know if I might go to Germany for a week again. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, so I could talk non-stop actually, because I just interested in lots of things. Shorthand. Today we talked about shorthand. We talked about Planck keyboard and Plover project in relation to trying to emulate Steno machine, the Steno machine, a phonetic system for writing. And then we have English spelling reform. Then we also have English shorthand system. Yeah, so let's move that. They are related. Then we also talked about some math, combinatorics. Yeah, I forgot to show you some interesting problems of combinatorics, so you get a flavor. Okay, another day. Then we talked about schism. Yeah, Emacs versus xemacs in 1990s, and religion, Islam, Christianity, and 1,000 branches of Christianity, 1,000 branches of Linux distro, 1,000 branches of Linux Windows managers. And schism, that's human nature. And also the Loglan and Lojban constructed language split. We talked about Shavian alphabet, which is one of the phonetic alphabet for English, part of spelling reform, and also Discrete alphabet, which is one of the phonetic spelling reform for English, phonetic alphabet created by Mormons. Then we talked about Unicode the run alphabet, which is kind of the father of Western writing system and language, I guess, especially Northern Europe, or maybe Germanic tribes or something. I don't know. I'm not a linguist, especially I'm a hobbyist. Okay, so I know some people in our group, Alan and Francie, they are certified linguists. They study. So Run Germanic language includes North Germanic, West Germanic, East Germanic. So North Germanic includes Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, Icelandic, Farsi, West Germanic includes English, German, Dutch. Okay. So anyway, rune alphabet, and also the Tolkien, the Tolkien, the elvish language or whatever, the Lord of the Rings, which is a big phonetism of among the nerds, which I'm not interested. I don't like the Lord of the Rings at all. Yeah. The guy ESR, the abbrev, the R, RMS. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the abbrev RMS. The founder of Free Software Foundation. Now, ESR is another guy in the same vein. Usually mentioned in parallel. ESR, Eric Raymond. He's a big fan of the Lord of the Rings, and he can tell you all about it, about the run, the history of the run, or things like that. Tolkien, he has written articles about it. He's pretty educated. The ESR guy. He's also, I would say, he's somewhat of a polymath too. He has broad interest, not just in programming but in linguistics, especially lots of hacker stuff in electronics. Do it yourself. Like I have an article. Let me ramble on a little bit. I have an article on him fixing, like talking about how to fix your mouse. Okay, let's see, trackball history. So okay, which one? This one, I think. So this is the old Logitech trackball. So he has you see, this is his article. He tells you, going into the details, diving into soldering and taking things apart, hack, fix something about it. I'm not a electronic nerd. Then he's talking about pins. Okay, that's ESR, but his opinions, he's not very good in my opinion. His opinions on politics. Okay, I think that's it. Let's see. Geometry, abacus, Cummings. Okay, we talk about Lojban, constructed languages. Cummings, which is a poet. He break the rules. Then there's quite a few others. I don't remember the names offhand. There's quite not okay. Shakespear, Cummings. Cummings is particularly known for his breaking the punctuations. The orthography. By academic mumbo jumbo is called orthography. That is how you write things. Then of course Shakespeare. Then there's quite a few. Emily Dixon, I think so, and there's quite a few names. Anyway. Okay, bye. Hi Justin, you too late.